Hello everyone, it's John again here at Read Culture, just coming to you with some news that's been breaking over the last few days, over this weekend. The fall of the Syrian regime, and it appears that this was a pretty big surprise to a lot of people. They weren't expecting these rebels to move all that quickly. But they moved quickly into the city of Damascus and took over the regime. And this has some pretty significant implications, of course, in international politics, but specifically for Christians. But here's the AP report. Syrian President Bashar Assad fled the country on Sunday, bringing to a dramatic close his nearly 14-year struggle to hold on to control as his country fragmented in a brutal civil war that became a proxy battlefield for regional and international powers. The exit of the 59-year-old Assad stood in stark contrast to his first months as Syria's unlikely president in 2000, when many hoped he would be a young reformer after 3 decades of his father's iron grip. But at age 34, the Western-educated ophthalmologist, interesting, appeared as a geeky, tech-savvy fan of computers with a gentle demeanor. But when faced with protest of his rule that erupted in March 2011, Assad turned to brutal tactics of his father to crush dissent. And as the uprising hemorrhaged into an outright civil war, he unleashed his military to blast opposition-held cities with support from allies Iran and Russia. Now, if you know the situation, around 2015 or so, and in the years following, a group of rebels called the ISIS group, a group of Islamic terrorists, made a foothold not only in Syria but also in Iran, and that had some bad implications because they went after Christians in both northern Iraq and in Syria. And in Syria, that's some of the oldest Christians in the world. You've got both Antioch and Damascus right there. And that's where many of the Christians who, if you read the Bible, especially in Acts, many Christians escaped Jerusalem after some intense persecution and fled to Antioch and Damascus and were there to, in fact, Antioch became the new capital of Christianity there in Acts. And that's where Paul began his missionary journeys. But anyway, Syrian Christians are now facing a tough road because not all these rebels are Islamic radicals, but some of them are, and it could be that they face more persecution against and even genocide. And we need to be praying for Syrian Christians. Here is supposedly a video. I don't know 100% what the source was. I tried to look it up. But I think it is meant to display the capture of some Christians by some of the more radical factions of this rebel group that have overthrown Assad and his regime. But let's look at this a minute. The foot on the neck, of course, is a classic sign of defeat of an enemy, and there they have their foot on the necks of their enemy, and it's a sad situation for many Christians, and I hope that the better heads of this regime will take over and try to quell this kind of violence against Christians. But we'll see. In the meantime, we as believers should be praying for them and praying that none of this, some of the worst things that happened years ago would occur, that they would remember Assad's brutalness towards them, and with his ouster, would come to more acceptance of the people, especially after being so distraught and after all these years of civil war. Hopefully they can bring an end to that, and keep these Christians from being attacked and persecuted and those kinds of things. But we have to pray for that. At least some of the more the outside influences will probably end. I'm wondering how Iran will be involved in Syria, because they were pretty much in control of Assad, and the Russians as well. So it's kind of an iffy future for Syria and its Christians, and we as believers need to pray. Well, thank you for listening, and just remember to keep the Syrian people in your prayers, and I'll see you next time.